of the things that we wanted to do tonight was to allow you to hear from some people who have been helped by some of the things that Florida does for children and for students. And we got acquainted with some people, and they recommended a young lady to us who's a mother of children that go to Florida schools. I don't know if you think this way, but a lot of us realize that nobody cares for their children like a mother. And this mother realized that her student needed help. And thankfully, there was a way to do that. And I don't want to tell the story, but Chikara Parks came all the way down from the Tampa-St. Pete area, and she wants to tell her story, and we want her to tell her story of her involvement with her kids. So we're going to invite her to come on up. And it's, sure, welcome. It's a great opportunity for us to hear from her, but be sure and notice that there was a solution that solved her problem, and this is what the Florida Citizens Alliance looks for: solutions that we can encourage people to take advantage of and solutions that we can help make happen. Chikara, thanks for coming.
Thank you. First off, I would like to thank you guys for giving me a minute of your time to share what the Step Up for Student Scholarship have done for me. So, first off, I'm a single mother of 4 children. I'm a full-time student, so I'm always beat. And it's hard to find good places for your children when you're not in a good area. And please forgive me, I'm a little nervous. I thought it was gonna be about 20 people here. So I'm in a community. I am in a community that the schools aren't as good. They're community schools. It's a majority of African American, dominantly it's a lot of African American children, and the stereotype is really crazy. So for parents in the area, it's very hard to be able to find a good school for your children that's in the area. You have to go on waiting lists. You have to wait years and years and years, to the point like you never get it. Anyway, my daughter, it was her 4th grade year at a school that she had been to for her whole, elementary school, since kindergarten. And her 4th grade year, I was just kind of like, I'm done at this point. She came to me one day because I'm a mentor as well. And she's like, Mom, did you see the girl just kicked me? And I'm like, what are you talking? Can you go tell a teacher? So the protocol in public school is to first tell the teacher, then tell, and these are all of the options if the first one doesn't work. Tell the teacher, then tell the behavior specialist. That doesn't work, go to the principal, file a bully report online, and then go to the school board. All of that was done plus more. I've even pulled a couple of the children aside, like, listen, you guys are girls, blah, blah, and that still didn't work. I talked to parents, it still didn't work. When I heard about Step Up for Students, I was so excited. My daughter had already started a school on the scholarship, but I wanted to let my other daughter kind of go out with it because she had been there since kindergarten. And why would you want to take your children away from people they've went... So anyway, I'm like, you have to do it. Sorry. She started this school because the bullying was affecting her academics. Someone had touched her sexually. It was just so much going on. And teachers just did not do anything. She started this school, Academy Prep. Amazing. It was like a angel sent school. I don't know. She's been maintaining a 3.0. She's no innocent person to girl drama. So it still happens, but they really, really put a nip on it really quick. It's not lingering. They don't get to become physical. And they let me know as a parent, she's okay. We have her, she's fine, it will be okay. I also have, my 2 sons were still at the same school. I thought, well, they can stay here because they're boys. Boys might be different, they're a little rough, No, it wasn't. He's third grade now. He was first grade then, and he was like getting kicked in the back and like slammed, and so he started to act out. So all of the teachers would call me and be like, Daquan's kind of acting up again, and I'm like, this isn't him. Like he's a genius. He makes straight A's. He's amazing with academics. So that was never the problem. I finally said, okay, I'm going to put my boys on the scholarship because this just isn't working for me. I put them on the scholarship. This year has been amazing. They're like, what? Who said that? He's amazing. And he tells me, he jokes. And because this is a Christian school, we are a Christian family. He always says, I'll be like, was anything going on funny or anybody bothering you? And he's like, no. This is a Christian school, Mom. He doesn't get it, of course. He's 9, and I also remind him, just because it's Christian, it doesn't, But Step Up for Student Scholarship is amazing. And I want to thank them. I definitely want to thank them from the bottom of my heart because the things that's happening now, it wouldn't have been happening. My oldest, she's in 8th grade now. She's maintaining a 3.75, and she has all these high schools wanting to, get her for high school and these colleges, and I'm so thankful. I'm so thankful. Thank you.
Thanks so much. Thanks so much. Great to hear a mom's story and hear the happy ending. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the scholarship program she referred to is a state of Florida solution to some of these kinds of problems. And the scholarship works a little bit like this video shows, so you'll have an idea of how they can do this.
What is a tax credit scholarship? A tax credit scholarship is a private school scholarship given to students by a nonprofit that is funded by taxpayer donations. Where does the money come from to pay for tax credit scholarships? It starts with a nonprofit that relies on charitable donations to fund scholarships for kids. Taxpayers who want to support those nonprofits donate to them. To inspire people to donate more, the government offers them tax credits for their donations. Then, when donors file their income taxes, they are reimbursed for their donation to some degree by the state. Now, how do tax credit scholarships work? A parent works with a scholarship-giving nonprofit and schools to find the right fit. Once they do, a child gets a scholarship of some varying amount to go to that school. Remember where the money comes from? The state can limit the amount it reimburses donors. The lower the limit, the smaller the scholarship for each child. The higher the limit, the bigger the scholarship for each child. Today, thousands of parents in states across America are using tax credit scholarships to access schools that work best for their children. Learn more about those families and the effects tax credit scholarships are having on communities at edchoice.org.
These scholarships are available to students in Florida. The limiting factor is funding. It's a continuing challenge, but we think it's a great solution and it's really worked for a lot of families. There are waiting lists to take advantage of these, so you can see how effective that is. So thanks again, Chikara, for coming, and let's get behind some of these solutions that the state offers to us. We'd like to introduce you a little bit to the Florida Citizens Alliance. I know many of you are aware of what we do, and there's information on your tables that we'd encourage you to take with you. Of course, we'll be around to answer questions if you'd like. But we thought one of the best ways to help you understand what we are and what we do is in this message from one of our interns.
Hi, my name is Dominique Clemens. I'm from Naples, Florida, and I'm an intern for Florida Citizens Alliance. My junior year of high school, I attended a large public school in Naples, Florida. This was the year of deciding which college I wanted to go to. One of the first that I checked out was Hillsdale College in Michigan. On a whim, my mom and I went to Hillsdale, Michigan on my first college visit. During this visit, I was exposed to vocabulary and concepts that I had never heard before during my public education. Words such as truth, liberty, and the liberal arts. Names such as Aristotle, Adam Smith, and Plato, which I thought was just a colorful clay for children. I had this awakening during my visit at Hillsdale College when I realized I am not getting a valuable education at my public school. I felt so far behind all the other prospective students that I met, and I was in shock at how uneducated and unprepared for college I was. I was an A student in my high school, and I thought that meant that I was ready for college, but I clearly wasn't. I decided to take my future into my own hands, and right before my senior year of high school, I transferred to a private classical academy in hopes that I could prepare myself for acceptance into Hillsdale College. My senior year of high school was exciting and full of learning that developed my critical thinking skills, which had been neglected in the public school curriculum. I was so inspired by this point in my journey that I devoted my senior thesis to the history of education reform. It was during this research that I realized, rather than being taught academic knowledge, children are being indoctrinated with certain political philosophies. This motivated me to get involved with Florida Citizens Alliance. I was accepted into Hillsdale College, and I am now a junior studying economics. In the midst of all this, I was connected with Keith Flaw and Florida Citizens Alliance. FLCA's mission resonated with my passion for education. They have given me the opportunity to keep my passion alive and work for them even when in Michigan for school. I am their web content and social media intern, which allows me to take my passion and love for quality education and inform new audiences on social media of the urgent problems in our education system today. FLCA is an advocate for families and works with legislators to give parents a voice and make school districts accountable to parents. I am so grateful to be able to support myself as a student at Hillsdale College while working for FLCA in an area that I am passionate about. I am able to put my time into this organization and also continue to enrich myself through Hillsdale's liberal arts education. Both Hillsdale College and Florida Citizens Alliance have helped me to develop as a person while developing my professional skills. This week, I am beginning my internship at the Department of Education in Washington, D.C., which is why I could not be with all of you today. I am so grateful for Keith Flaw, the president of Florida Citizens Alliance, for his hard work and dedication to this organization. Should this organization continue to flourish through your generous support, I would love to come back and continue to be part of this team fighting for better education in Florida. Thank you for your support. I encourage all of you to find us on Facebook and Twitter at Florida Citizens Alliance and FLCA for Liberty, and help us to spread the word by sharing and liking our posts. We really couldn't do any of this without you. Thank you.
Dominique mentioned Keith Flaw, and I want you to meet Keith and hear from him a little bit. And a lot of you know him. He's chief instigator. And we're glad he is. So Keith, come on up.
Florida Citizens Alliance is a nonpartisan group. We focus very strongly on constitutional values and our God-given and protecting our God-given rights. But there's some information I think that you ought to understand coming out of this last election that to me is shocking. We have 13.5 million voters in Florida, right? We had 8 million vote in the last election. That's a pretty good turnout for an off-year election. Do you realize that 4 million of that 8 million that voted for socialism? They voted for sanctuary cities. They voted for abortion on demand, and they voted for raising corporate taxes on small businesses 40%. 4 million of the 8 million. The margin of victory for our constitutional values was 33,000 votes for the governorship. Why is that? We believe strongly it's our education system. We've had 2 generations of kids that are now teaching our kids that have come out of our liberal colleges. So it's time we stand up and fix that.
Sure. One of the things that we do is we talk to a lot of people about schools and our vision for improving them, but also about how they're graded now. Everybody we talk to agrees with us that Florida grades schools on the curve, and we try to help people come to a little bit of reality about that kind of thing. The data shows some deficiencies, and we don't celebrate those deficiencies as much as they guide us, and we need to help our kids have a chance. Maybe you could tell us a little bit about your view of those things and how we might improve them.
Well, the real data is, is again shocking. If you look at the national tests our kids take, like the ACT, SAT, many of you are familiar with those. We took them when we went to school. In Florida, 50% of the kids taking nationally normed tests cannot read or do math at grade level. We have 2.8 million students in Florida, and literally half of them cannot read or do math at grade level. In Collier County, where many of you are from, when we can get you the data, you have a folder on your chart or on your table with Collier County data, and we can get you the Lee County data or wherever you're from. But in Collier County, 43% of our 46,000 students can't read at grade level. 49% of our students in Collier County cannot do math at grade level. Now, the really shocking thing, and many of you may have read this in the newspaper 3 weeks ago, the school district and the state just declared that Florida, or the Collier County, has a 92% graduation rate. Ask yourself, how can that be? If half of our kids can't read and do math at grade level, how can we graduate 92%? It's called grade inflation. It's called grade inflation. Again, we have to do something about that. It's our kids' future that's being destroyed.
And a lot of people know that we talk a lot about instructional materials and the desire to reform that, to have the best quality, the very finest instructional materials for our children. But there's an aspect of that it's always difficult for us to talk about. I know I'm embarrassed when I have to go to a legislator's office and hand them that or talk to somebody else. In fact,
and every year from grades 3 through 8, this association picks 15 novels for grades 3 through 8 that our kids are encouraged to read. And then the school systems throughout the state urge these and put programs in place for these kids to read those. The most shocking thing to us is that one of the key requirements to get on that list is the novel has to be published 2010 or newer. So by definition, they're banning the classics, and by definition, they're shoving pop culture down our kids' throats. And that's our school system. So again, we as community members, as parents, grandparents, have to stand up.
but you left out the Pearson connection. Don't forget to tell people about that. I think they might be a little surprised.
Anybody in here heard of a company called Pearson? Pearson, it's actually a British company. Their third largest shareholder is the Arab Bank Corporation. And if you look at their shareholder list, it's many of the Middle East countries. Now, we've documented over 90 textbooks and novels, and we've documented the religious indoctrination. But I would argue that that's not the whole story. What companies like Pearson do, and they now claim to deliver 80% of all the instruction materials in the United States. Let me say that again. They deliver 80% of all the instructional materials throughout the United States. They go into our liberal colleges and invite these professors to rewrite our history and to rewrite our founding values and principles. One of the biggest things we're finding in textbooks that should get your attention is that they're encouraging kids to get rid of the electoral college. That's the last vestige of our constitutional republic. So those are some of the ideas that are some of the facts that we deal with, and we hope that it's kind of a somber note, but we hope that it helps you realize how important what we do is.
All right, thank you very much. Well done. But I want you to meet our panelists and have an opportunity to welcome them here. Let's start with Dr. Larry Arnn. Right here, come on up, Dr. Arnn. President of Hillsdale College. You heard from Dominique, one of their students. We also have Dr. Bob McClure from the James Madison Institute. Come on up, Bob. Glad for you to be with us. And Neal McCluskey from the Cato Institute. Glad to have Neal here. I saw Bob Levy from Cato here earlier as well, I think. Is Bob still here? Yeah. Hi, Bob. Thanks for coming. And last but never least, and I had her last on purpose, is Erica Donalds. Erica is a tireless advocate for children and for helping them have a good education. You know her as a now retired school board member, and yet she has not stopped. She's working on things that we learned about just this week. So we're glad to have Erica here as well. Now, to begin, what I've asked the panelists to do is to give us a brief introduction to them and to their concerns about education, why they care about education, maybe a little bit about the organizations they represent.
I work in education. I'm the president of Hillsdale College. I've been doing that for a long time now. Hillsdale College is a soon-to-be 175-year-old liberal arts college. It's got a storied history, founded by some people, some of whom became friends of Abraham Lincoln. It's a very stubborn place. We don't take any money from the government. Young Miss Clemens there, like everybody else at Hillsdale College, spends half her time studying a core curriculum that's very difficult. And education, so that's what the college is. The college has founded now and is helping to manage 20 charter schools. There'll be 4 more next year. 4 of them are here in this state. Education is 2 things that make up the whole of it. First of all, it's simple. Education means to lead forth. It's what you need to know. It comes from a Latin word that means that. And what do you need? What's forth? Which way is forth? The Bible says, raise up a child in the way he should go. Which way should he go? And the answer to that is the way that leads to being a complete and fully functioning human being. And there's something about that, right? That's not just economics. That's not just making a living. That's not just thinking for yourself, although it involves that, requires it, because you have to, what you think. So that's simple. And the second thing is it's sublime. It actually is one form of the highest human activity. It's a benefit to everyone who's involved in it. It's essentially an act of charity because it starts with the fact that you learn together. That's what schools are for, and that's how they work when they work best. But then finally, it's when education concerns the very young, that's something that you do for the future. And that means that we tend to be serious about it. All these things that they just listed that are going on in the schools today, those are going on for a reason. They're going on because the people who do that think that they can turn the schools into a scientific engineering project and perfect them. And that's a good that they seek. And they draw their strength from the inevitable failures everyone has in trying to learn and trying to be a fine human being. And so the point is, this contest about education is a contest about the soul of the whole country.
Good evening, everyone. I'm very honored to be here on this panel with some amazing people that I'm a huge fan of. So thank you, Florida Citizens Alliance, for putting me up here. First of all, a mom of 3 boys. I have 3 wonderful heartthrobs, 15, 11, and 7. And when we started having children, I exercised the most prevalent form of school choice. I bought a house where I wanted my kids to go to school. And I thought that that was enough because, as was talked about earlier, we grade our schools in Florida, and these were A schools, and therefore they were going to be wonderful and perfect for my children. It didn't work out that way. There was a problem in one of my children's classrooms, and as I dug into it, I found out that it was actually a problem in the school, and then I dug into that and found out it was a problem with the district, and dug into that, and it was a problem with the state who selected our standards and made all of these changes. And as many of you were involved about 8 years ago, we found out it was a problem at the national level as well, and we started a battle against the Common Core, against federal involvement in our education system. From there, I found out about Hillsdale College charter schools, got involved in a founding effort here, found out that I was not alone as a parent who wanted something different for my children than the traditional public school within walking distance to my house, and decided I would run for the school board here in Collier County because I was going to change the education system here in Collier County from that post. Many of you supported that effort, and I really appreciate it. I do think that we did some great work while I was on there for 4 years. I also helped to found a school board coalition, the Florida Coalition of School Board Members for pro-school choice school board members across the state of Florida. we were able to have some considerable influence in Tallahassee on expanding school choice options. And I came to the realization in all of that work, both here and across the state, that competition and free market in education, allowing parents to vote with their feet, is really the only thing that is going to reform our education system. And so I've now dedicated my life and changed my career from being an executive in the finance sector for the past 16 years to devoting myself to the expansion of school choice and high quality school choice options like Hillsdale College charter schools across the state of Florida and eventually across the country. So I thank you for all of your support, and I look forward to the discussion tonight with these wonderful folks up here.
Well, I'm Neal McCluskey. I am the director of the Center for Educational Freedom at the Cato Institute. You probably know the chairman of the board, Bob Levy, who's back there. Anything that I say right or good today or that Cato does good is all attributable to Bob. Anything I say that's stupid is extra attributable to Bob. If you don't know generally what libertarianism is, there's lots to discuss. We could all talk after the event if you want. We'll get into the nuance of libertarianism. But generally, what we are interested in is maximizing the sphere of freedom in society. And it basically means people should be able to make decisions for themselves as long as they don't impose on other people. That's just a very broad outline. If you want to know more, talk to Bob Levy, because he knows everything. Why did I get involved in education? Well, part of it was, I don't know, maybe I was overly optimistic, but it always struck me that sort of the soft underbelly of the big state was education, because it made no sense to me that the way we deliver education is the state sets up schools and everybody goes to those schools. It turns out a lot of people don't agree with me on that. And so I found that the work is a whole lot harder than it was going to. I thought it would be, because I thought it was so obvious that everybody should be able to take education funding to the schools or to homeschool or to whatever arrangement they think is most effective for their child, and that teaches and passes on the values that family think are important. I thought that was obvious. Turns out it's not that obvious. So I've been involved in education now, education policy for about 17 years. And I also can't understand why anybody thinks it's a good idea to have the state shaping the minds of children. Turns out there are a lot of people I have to convince that that is bad as well. Hopefully not a lot of people in this room need to be convinced of that, but if you do, I'm going to try my best tonight to do that. Thanks.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Bob McClure, and I am president of the James Madison Institute, which is Florida's oldest and largest free market think tank. We are based in Tallahassee, but we are statewide from the Keys all the way up to the Georgia line and across to Pensacola and Perdido Key, where Representative Mike Hill is from. So we are the state think tank for the state of Florida. One of our board members is here tonight, Glenn Blau. Many of you know Glenn and his lovely wife, Sandra Blau. Glenn has been on our board now for nearly 10 years. And Chikara, the gentleman who actually started the Step Up for Students program, is a gentleman named John Kirtley, who is also on our board of directors from Tampa. John was in the private equity world and gave that up. He's probably about 52 years old, gave that up about 10 years ago, and has devoted his life to school choice. And I want to talk about that in just a couple of minutes. I also have a question, Chikara. I'm the father of two daughters, one 23 and 21. I want to know if the girl drama ever stops. Does it ever stop? Okay. I hadn't stopped in our household yet, so I'm still working on that. The great thing about the state of Florida, and what I think is critically important for all of us to understand, is that Keith talked about the Electoral College. You really have 4 states that reflect the entire country, right? If you think about it, it's California, Texas, New York State, and Florida. You have California, which demographically reflects the entire country, and yet it's the poster child for everything that's wrong with economics, education, energy, and the environment. You pick it. That's the poster child for what's wrong with those issues. You have Texas, which is a deeply red state, but it's west of the Mississippi, and it's pretty deeply red despite Senator Cruz's recent election. You then have New York State, which is the financial capital of the world. I'm sure there are many New Yorkers in here. And yet New York State's lost roughly 10% of the state's population in the last 8 to 10 years, right? Many of you have moved here for tax reasons and the like. It's not just the weather. And then finally, you have the great state of Florida. Florida's more red than blue. Demographically, the entire country's here. You pick a demographic, it's here. It's rural, it's urban, it's roughly 15 to 20% Hispanic, roughly 10 to 15% African American, military, retiree, retired military, millennials. You pick it, that demographic is here in the state. And yet, Barack Obama won the state twice, Rick Scott won the state twice, Donald Trump won the state once, Ron DeSantis won the state once, and in every one of those elections, the victor was by fewer than 80,000 votes. You think about that. Barack Obama beats Mitt Romney and John McCain. About 8 million votes were cast. Fewer than 100,000 votes decided that election. And so, and then the second component to that is that Florida, while more red than blue, is certainly some shade of purple. I think we could all agree. And yet, I think that we shouldn't collectively cede any demographic to any, based on any policy. We shouldn't cede, those of us who believe in a centered right world or a libertarian economic world shouldn't cede anything to any demographic. And I'll give you a perfect example. We were talking about the most recent governor's race. JMI, the James Madison Institute, had a piece in the Wall Street Journal during the Thanksgiving holiday. And there were approximately, in the most recent governor's race, approximately 650,000 African-American women who voted in that election. 650,000. Of that 650,000 voters, roughly 100,000 voted for Ron DeSantis. That's 20% of a demographic that otherwise we're told nightly on cable news should be in the 1% to 2% range. Why? Why? It's because when they were surveyed, their response was Andrew Gillum opposed all forms of school choice. And I have children and grandchildren who partake in these school choice programs, and I was not about to let him take those away. Therefore, I voted for Ron DeSantis. If we can, from a public policy standpoint, make it that personal in every area, it doesn't matter what the demographic is. It doesn't matter what state it is. It doesn't matter where you are. We can continue to grow the conservative movement. Ed Fulner talks about you grow by multiplication and addition, not division and subtraction. But you have to meet people where they are, and you have to make the issues relevant to their daily lives and refuse to cede one single demographic. I'll close with this. The last thing that I think makes Florida so important is that we're in the Eastern Media Corridor. Texas is not. The Rick Scott, Bill Nelson race got far more coverage than the Beto O'Rourke, Ted Cruz race. Every massive alligator that crosses some path in the Everglades is national news, right? On Fox News. Everything that happens in the state of Florida gets national news. Why? Because it's in that Eastern Media Corridor. And so I would argue that Florida remains and will continue to remain the single most important state in the country when it comes to public policy and when it comes to politics, which places a tremendously heavy burden on all of us in this room to be responsible. And first among equals when it comes to public policy is education and educational reform. Thank you.